welcome back to AustinPlus, where today we are talking about my not so favorite franchise. It's the Twisted Childhood Universe movies collection. What started a very bizarre horror concept, and how has it become an entire shared universe? Childhood characters turned into low-budget horror villains, but as more of these movies get announced and actually do well, a bigger question remains: is it starting to come up? So today we are answering the question, should the Twisted Childhood Universe movies even continue on? I have my thoughts. A lot of people know I have my thoughts on this thing. Some people really like it. If you are a long-term fan of this, you will know that I think why? So today we are going to answer that very question. So without further ado, let's get into it. So what is the Twisted Childhood Universe? Now, there's some people that probably have no clue what I'm talking about, which is fair enough. But the Twisted Childhood Universe is built on a very simple idea. Take familiar nostalgic characters and interpret them as horror figures. Because of course you do. I do that all the time. Why would anyone do that? What began with the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey quickly expanded into multiple planned films, crossover ideas, and a shared universe concept. It's less about building deep narratives, but more about flipping something recognizable into something shocking, using nostalgia as an entry point. So why did it blow up initially? The original success of the universe wasn't driven by quality, but by the attention. The shock factor of seeing beloved childhood characters like Winnie the Pooh imagined as a violent horror figure immediately caught by people off guard, and that curiosity spread quickly across social media. And it has become viral, not because people expected it to be a great movie, but because they wanted to see how far the concept would go. And in doing that, they have actually received great reception. And bear in mind, when they started, they knew they were low budget, but people still enjoyed them, and to the point where we want to see more. There is a big problem with expanding a concept into a universe. Turning a viral idea into a full cinematic universe introduces major issues, especially when there were never a strong narrative foundation to begin with. Expanding too quickly shifts the focus towards quantity over quality, and when every project relies on the same core gimmick, the concept starts to feel a bit repetitive. What worked once as a strange novelty becomes predictable when repeated across multiple films. Now, there's a word that I used in there, I don't know if you caught up, it's gimmick. They've turned nostalgia into a gimmick, and somehow it's working. At its core, the universe relies heavily on nostalgia as its main hook, with the characters themselves not doing the most of the work in attracting attention. The horror elements often feel secondary to the idea of simply recognizing whose characters they used to be. But the nostalgia alone isn't enough to sustain this long-term interest, and once this initial surprise wears off, the films need stronger storytelling to keep audiences invested. Now, this franchise is doing well, and they did say titles that they would release, and they have done it, and they have succeeded with them. They started in 2021, I believe, and they are still going today. They came out with Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, then they came out with Bambi, and now they're going with Pinocchio Unstrung. So they have got clear vision, and it is somewhat working. I do not think this has the idea to keep them invested, people invested, because then it will just become like a genre, making characters that we know into horror. It's like making Batman into horror. I mean, they kind of already did that. Speaking of which, the audience reception and fatigue is, I think, the biggest factor in all of this. Audiences' reactions to these films have been mixed, with some viewers enjoying them for their chaotic low-budget energy, while others see them as shallow and repetitive. I'm on the fence, because I was like, this is a stupid idea and it's not going to work. It has. I was proven wrong, and I have actually watched both the Winnie the Pooh ones. I haven't watched the Peter Pan one yet, but the Winnie the Pooh ones, that one's actually quite interesting. But as more projects are announced and released, fatigue becomes a very real concern, because when every film is built around the same concept, it impacts the impact naturally starts to weaken. Now, I do think if they start adding in story, in which they kind of did with the second Winnie the Pooh one, that did well, and they've got a third one apparently being made now. So I do think that they could do this, They just need a story and some substance. But some people are asking the question, can a concept evolve into a universe? Now, for a universe to survive long term, it would need to evolve beyond its initial, gimmick by focusing on stronger writing and more developed characters, and a clearer tone, obviously. But building a proper interconnected narrative could give the universe more purpose, but that requires a shift away from relying purely on shock value, because without evolution, it risks remaining surface level rather than becoming something meaningful. Now, there's a term that the reason that I was having a conversation with someone, and they said they brought this up, and they said this very term, and this is why I'm going to use it. It's so bad, it's good. Correct. That is how this universe has survived. It is so bad, it's good. But they've actually shifted that. It's good. And I don't know how someone has done that. Part of the appeal for some audiences comes from how it's so bad, it's good nature. And of these films where the low budget production, exaggerated violence, and absurd interpretations create a sort of ironic enjoyment in it. Don't get me wrong, if you like the original Winnie the Pooh, you will not like this. If you appreciate horror and some weird messed up concepts, you probably will like this. However, building your franchise entirely around that type of appeal is risky, because what works as a one-off experience can become exhausting when repeated too often without variation. I think that one of the biggest risks is the risk of overexpansion. Announcing too many projects too quickly creates pressure of the franchise to deliver consistently, which is where I think this all started to go a bit, oof, this could be risky. And that often leads to a drop in quality. Now, instead of building anticipation over saturation, it can dilute interest and make each new release feel less important. When everything is expanding at once, nothing feels like an event anymore. So, is there actually a future here? There is still potential for this universe, don't get me wrong, to continue on, but only if it slows down and focuses on improving its foundation. I think that's what they need to do. It's the only thing they need to do. More deliberate storytelling, better production quality, which they kind of are already doing now, and a clearer creative direction could help it grow into something more sustainable. Without those changes, it risks losing relevance just as quickly as it gained attention. So, should the Twisted Childhood universe continue on? Only if it evolves, as I already said that, because what started as a shocking idea can't survive shock alone. Eventually it needs it needs more to say. Right now the concept feels stretched, and continuing on in its current form risks turning something unique into something forgettable. It doesn't necessarily need to end completely, but it doesn't need to change, because relying on the same idea over and over will only weaken its impact over time. But that's the end of today's video. Hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and comment what else you would like to see on this very channel. But I hope you have an amazing day as always, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye. Yeah.